If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.
Hello Internet, we are back. We got another railway policeman here with us. You know, the funny thing about these fellows to me is how well they did after they left the force. You know, there's a lot of people who say, you know what, you joined the police because you're too stupid to do something else. Well, I have a surprise for you. I myself became a human rights lawyer and a few other things. This guy here in front of me, well, he can tell us himself what he does, but he's done well, as most of them. Let me just say to the rest of you, I'm still recording here from our hotel room. If you hear noise in the background, well, man, the building is the dust cloud where our own place is, about 50 yards away. It's probably that noise you're hearing in the background. It's not perfect. It's extremely warm here at Phuket as well, so the aircon's running. Well, no complaint. Start every day with a swim in the ocean. This morning, mind you, a few waves got me from behind, and I can feel it. After all, I'm not a child anymore. But Steyn, very welcome. Thank you for being here once again. Over to you. Can you tell me, where do you come from? How did you end up in the police?
Hi, morning, Chris, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. Yeah, it's an interesting story how I landed in the railway police. I lost both my parents as a very young child. By the age of 3, I've lost both my parents. My father in a car accident. I was too young to ever know him. And then my mother passed as a result of cancer. And then the nurse who looked after my mother in hospital adopted me, and her husband adopted me and gave me a home. And I was a difficult child. I struggled with a lot of things, and one of the things that I really struggled with was fitting in, and I couldn't understand, you know, the whole purpose of studying very hard at school. So I just passed by the skin of my neck always. And by the end of matric, I think I grew up in Palabora, and Palabora being a very military town, you had 7 Psi there, you had 5 reconnaissance, 3-2 battalion, 101 battalion. You know, it's a very, very military town, being on the outskirts of South Africa. All I wanted to do was go to the military. You know, this was the number one thing that I had a passion for and wanted to do. My adopted parents, however, wanted me to go and study, like, you know, they weren't very rich people, but they saved up money so I could go and study. My matric certificate allowed me to go and study, but I have absolutely no intention of going to university. I simply didn't want to go. And I came to an arrangement with them that I'd go to the police and study in the police. And then when I applied to the police, there was no intake for the South African police. From a friend of mine, Kobus Venter, and said, Steyn, you know, there's no place in the police for us, but I've spoken to the railway police, and there's space for us there. And I remember, well, I don't know the railway police even, but yeah, let's do it. Let's go. And we drove up from Palabora to Pretoria, just like November 1984, and did the interview. And then I had to choose, you know, where do I want to be stationed until I go to the college? And I think I had to. I said, so which is the furthest town away from Palabora? And I said, well, you can go to Messina or you can go to Komatipoort. And I said, well, I'm going to take Komatipoort because that's like far out on the Mozambican border, and I got stationed there. But not being to college, you know, you're not allowed to carry a firearm, and you're a roof, and you're the youngster on it. And I've almost lost my career in the police within the first 2 weeks. Only 2 weeks I've ever been in a charge office was my first 2 weeks in the force. We had a station commander, I think Ninaber was his surname. He was a very strict man, and I was a very naughty child, you know. So I remember, you know, the guys arrested some prostitutes, and we had to give them a spot fine, I think of 50 Rand or something. I was working the charge office, and you have to write out a receipt. And I made an error on the receipt, and I sort of crossed it out and fixed it up, and that was a big thing at the time because the guys in the charge office, everything had to be perfect, and very precise. And I got myself into trouble for that, and I got a warning. And it wasn't like a couple of days later, a drunk dude came into the charge office causing havoc, and I lost my cool and got myself into trouble. And this is about the time when Nina called myself and my sergeant in and says, you take this guy and you go and put him there at Lebombo at the border post, and you leave him there and don't let him come into town. And I almost didn't didn't make it right at the beginning, but I spent about 6 months there. When went to the college in the next intake. It was I think it was in June 85, and I had a guy Liebenberg as our platoon sergeant, and he was a task force member. And I think right from the outset, I've always had a crazy attitude. Every night we boned the floors because I had to shine, and you make your bed and it has to be perfect, and then you sleep on the floor so that the bed doesn't wrinkle again, because every morning you have an inspection and then you're in trouble. I just ended up, I don't know how, but every morning when it's inspection, Liebenberg would walk in, come to my bed first and put me in what we call the bus. So on a Friday there was a penalty squat. If you caused havoc during the week, you would go into this penalty squat and they would run you into the ground for an hour or two. And we call that exercise the bus. So I would land in the bus every morning. Liebenberg just goes, Rossouw, you in the bus. And I think it was about a month into it, he came to me and he says, when we're done here, you should consider going to the special task force. And I remember saying to him at Lip, I don't think I'm fit enough, and I'm not big enough, and I'm not strong enough, because I was like a scrawny little guy. I think I weighed about 75 kilos. But I think I'd like it to try it out. And we finished our basic college training, I think, in November. And I went home for the weekend, but Monday morning we were back for our selection process. And, it was the most gruesome thing I've ever experienced. I remember the guys at Clever Plans. I mean, we got together at Esland Park for the selection process, and guys were eating raw molasses, and we're doing funny stuff so you can have enough energy, because none of us knew what was going to happen. But you've heard stories about how tough this is, and how little guys make it, and you're quite scared because you don't know what is to come. And we started that Monday morning, and I think about halfway through Monday, a ton of the guys already left. They gave up. And Monday evening came, and we didn't stop, and there was there's no food, no sleep, no stop. And they drilled us into the ground right through Monday evening. We came to Tuesday. I think half the guys already left by then. And we go through the Tuesday. We were doing, I think, 3 days, if I remember correctly. And in the back of your mind, you had this thing that the last event would be a 25K run. So if you knew if you were still there by the 25K run and you complete the 25K run, you've made it, and you made it. But I've never been so tired in my entire life. And I think it's at one stage you realize that the fitness ain't gonna carry you anymore. And it was really for me like that. We had a guy in a college, and I think his surname was Olofsson or so, but he was super fit. He was the fittest guy I've ever seen. He's the type of guy that could do push-ups on his thumbs. He was a karate boffin, super, super, super fit. But the second day, Olofsson left. And then I go, guys, now this is real now. This is really, really, really tough. And they went pushed us through a lot of sometimes weird exercises and things. And we finished it up, and then they dropped us off for the 25K run. And I went, yeah, this is the last thing. I'm still here. And I remember I was so tired at one stage that I considered giving up, and I go, but I can't give up yet. I'm still here. And myself, and I think it was Reef Treenig, bless his soul, he's unfortunately passed, was the last 2 guys on the 25 run who came in. And we were only 7 guys of the entire group that finished the 25K run. But somehow in between the absolute devastating tiredness, there's an excitement because you've now made the physical kering. And this is when I met Flip Schutter, who had other plans. Yeah, an incredible man. It's up to there. Flip as we called him wasn't in the process, but we came in, and as Reef and I came in, he gave us a shouting down because we're the last two guys in, and why are we not running faster? And he was just hammering us. And then he says, well, go pick up your sleeper. And we had to pick up railway sleepers, two guys on a railway sleeper, and start running over the rugby field, up and down of the railway sleeper, because Flip wasn't done yet. Yeah, he's 7 guys. It means that one guy doesn't have a buddy to help carry that heavy railway sleeper. I ended up, because I was freaking about last to come through, ended up on the railway sleeper by myself. And, being exhausted and physically not strong enough to carry that sleeper all by myself, I had to roll it, head over hill to get across the field. But it also meant that by the time the other guys was back at where the instructors were standing, I was only on the other side of the field still, so I was like half as fast. And Flip kept on asking me if I wanted to go home, and he kept on hammering me. And at some stage, I think I lost it. And I just said F off and swore at him. And he just kept, he's an incredible tough guy. And he just kept going. And he says, you sure you don't want to go home? And I said, and then what is incredible for me is the other guys came and ran next to me and I think that's the point where I just stuck it out and finished it up and learned that, when you think you're done, there's still a lot in the tank left. And it's a principle that I've used in business. And I coach internationally. I'm an empowerment coach. I'm a business coach, and I've used through my career what I've learned in the task force with great success to help other people. Because I truly believe that you are the habits you keep. And the discipline that you learn in a place like the Special Task Force is so incredible that no matter what you do afterwards, that discipline will allow you to be super successful. And for most of the guys that, some of them, when the unit was disbanded, I think 1989, some of them, stayed in the police force and became officers and had great careers as policemen. Some of us left. I left in 1992. At first, when you come from a unit like that and you go into private sector, it's tough. And I personally, my journey in the task force as an operator, was the proudest moment I've ever had, because to achieve something like that is just incredible. I think, and I might be wrong on the number, but we have a register where the operators are locked into, the guys that were the operators. And I think there's 127 or maybe 130 or something names into that register. Now, if you really think about the great scheme of things, if people wonder whether it was tough or not tough, or is it just big talk, or do you have a chip on your shoulder because you're a task force operator? If you think about the big scheme of things, how many people went through the training college, and incredible people went through the training college over a span of 10 years, and out of all of those, most probably thousands of people, you had 127, 130, maybe 140 people that qualified as task force, special task force operators. And we were extremely well trained, so, and I think that was a part of it for me, is that we were extremely well trained. We had leadership that I think today in business, where I work, a lot of business owners, I very, very seldom find the kind of leaders that we had. I mean, you had a guy like Andre Olivier, incredible guy. You had Flip Skitter. We had guys like Louis Botha, who was one of our instructors. So all such incredible people. And what you appreciate from them as leaders was that they don't tell you to pick up an ammo case full of sand and run with it. They pick it up first and run with it with you. So they could show and not only tell. And I think for leadership today, when I coach people, I really use that as an example of what leadership means. It's not always about standing on the sideline and shouting and screaming at the end of the day. Flip Skitter told you to do something. He was quite capable of doing that twice as good himself. And I think that is, as a young man, I was like, 18 years old, to have leadership like that is incredible. And to have guys that skilled. I mean, I came in under Johan Lotriet, incredible guy, incredibly successful today in business. And later on, when the task force units was disbanded, I was fortunate to be part of the very first group that was trained with Andre Olivier for the anti-hijacking unit by the El Al, Israeli El Al unit. And that was an incredible experience. And then, I then worked a lot closer with Andre Olivier, or Jock as he's known, and come to realize again, you're talking about people here that really are top-notch guys. They do what they say, and they say what they do. There's no ifs, buts, maybes type of thing. And I think as a youngster, to me, that was a great lesson. And the discipline, I was a problem child, man. I started my career in the force like that, and the discipline of being in the unit really put me on the right course. And when I got to the day where I had to decide, there's many opportunities. I remember writing a letter to the minister asking permission to negotiate with national intelligence. That's after Johan Lotriet went there, and I asked for my certificates, and then I got a letter back. I read it the other day. I found it in my box. I read it again, saying, we don't give certificates to members of the force. And I think that was about the day when I decided, maybe it's time for me to go and pursue something else. And I resigned. I went into sales, and I failed in such a big way. I think I got a distinction in failing. I have never worked as hard as I worked in my first month and 2 or 3 in sales, and I didn't sell anything. So I go from having a fantastic career in the force and into the private sector, and it's dismal. You simply can't pay your stuff. It's horrible. And I remember I had a terrible manager, and he said to me one morning, I said to him, "But today you fire me or you teach me, but I can't keep on going like this because I don't make money." I was unfortunate to be taught well, and became top salesperson, top sales manager of the year. And that's really put me onto a course where I started learning how to help other people. And I truly believe that through all your experiences in life, and for me, this is what it was, the railway police was about, is that experience, it uniquely skilled and equipped me to help other people. And that's what I do for a living. Internationally, I'm a Ziegler legacy speaker and trainer for Zig Ziglar Foundation in Dallas, Texas. I own multiple businesses today. I coach businesses. I do extreme format seminars where we do breakthrough experiences for people to show them what is possible. Now, I would never be able to do that had it not been for the incredible leadership I had as an operator in a special task force. And has it not been for the discipline I've learned in the task force, has it not been for the courage that you learn there of not saying no matter how big the challenge. So when I do extreme format seminars, we have people walking over fire barefoot, and then that fire is 550, 600 degrees. We use normal wood that we braai with normally to make a fire for a fire walking event, but it's an extreme format, but it show people that you are capable of a lot more than you think. And I think it's an incredible privilege to be able to do that. So often people wonder, were we special enough? And I go, well, guys, go and see how many people qualified as operators, and then you'll realize how special you are. Was our unit good enough? Just go and read your code of honor, man. It says there you're part of a unit that's second to none in the world, and that you believe in your unit, and you believe in yourself, and overall you believe in God. So sometimes when people, and I often hear, when people talk and they go, do we fit in? We don't have to fit in. We were outstanding. I don't think that any unit at the time could do what we could do for what we were specifically skilled for. I mean, I don't believe anyone else in the country, most certainly not, and I doubt in the world, could really take a Boeing 747 from the ground in a hijack situation. And we could put, and I was part of an exercise where we actually did this. We could put 44 operators inside that Boeing in 4.5 seconds. So from the word the commanding officer says go, 4.5 seconds later, you have 44 very highly skilled people inside that aircraft. I think if you had to be a hijacker, that would be quite overwhelming to you, because it's just like, whoop, and it's there. And I don't think people really realize that. And we didn't at the time go out and say, guys, look at us, look at how great we are, look at our capability. That was not what it was about. But it is a brotherhood that people don't really understand, because you're dealing here with a bunch of people and a bunch of guys that are really solid, and they do what they say, and they mean what they say. And I think until today it's like that. And in business, that is what's made it work for me. I had some incredibly tough times after I left the force. Incredibly tough. There was one stage where I literally had no freaking roof over my head, and I had no money to buy food. But it's those tough times where you rely on the training and the leadership you had, and you reminded yourself of I was capable of that. Surely this cannot be that difficult. And that was a big thing for me. So today, I said to Andre the other day, I said, I want to partake in the legacy conversation, because I was just an operator. I wasn't a warrant officer. I think I left the force as a sergeant. I wasn't a lieutenant or a colonel. I was just an operator. But being an operator allowed me in business to do very, very well. I think I was 27 years of age 28 years of age when I became the managing director of one of the largest financial services administrators in the country. That's very young for a position like that. So I did well in the private sector eventually. But had I not had the foundation of the Special Task Force and the leadership and the direction that I've learned from there, I would most probably not persist until success came. Today I'm able to tell people that persistent consistency is what gets you there. And how do I know? Well, when I was in my in the selection process, I remember at one stage on that 25K run, one of my friends literally passed out, and I picked him up and I carried him, and when he came to, he ran the shit out of me. And I was so tired, I literally said to myself, can you go 5 more minutes? Because you don't know, you don't know how far it still is. You started the run, you're so tired, you can't think straight, and you don't know how far it is, and you want to give up. And then you go, can I last another 5 minutes? And today, if I look back, when I coach businesses and I work with people, I go, it's persistent consistency. If you just persistently do the right stuff, you'll get success no matter what it is you do. If you follow the right habits, you get success no matter what you do. But you have to be persistent. And sometimes success doesn't just pop up. It's like you want to go to a unit like that, it's not everybody that makes it. You're going to get tired. You're going to get broken. Those guys are literally, when you go hungry, they'll eat a hamburger and ask you if you want a bite. And then tell you, all you have to do is give up and we'll give you a hamburger. Let you do weird stuff. I read through a document the other day on the selection process, the different things that goes in selection. I go, yeah, I wish it was that simple. Because what the guys have written in the manual for a selection process and what actually happens are like two worlds apart. Because these guys are constantly pushing you to the limit and to see, where do you break? Everyone will break. I believe everyone has a breaking point, and they push you to see how far can you go. What is your tolerance? Can you last that next 5 minutes? And I think sometimes in business it's the same. Can you last that next 5 minutes? We've just come through COVID, which was crazy for business in the world. And for many businesses, they thrived and other businesses closed up. And I think it's mindset that makes the difference. And my speciality and what I do today is literally I'm a mindset coach I teach people how to have a bulletproof mindset. Because if you can control your mind, you can control a lot of things. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I really didn't have the understanding of what mindset does. Because to become a specialist combat operator in a special task force like the Railway Police Special Task Force, you have to have the right mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, fitness won't do it for you. I've seen the fittest guys not make it. Strength won't do it for you. I've seen really strong, guys with big arms not make it. Lots of people that are clever and have degrees won't make it. You have to have the right mindset. And I think that's the message I want to give to people is that, we had a journey with the Railway Police that was absolutely incredible. That went away at some stage, which wasn't so incredible. But it still gave us the opportunity to do whatever it was we were going to do afterwards, to do well with that. And for many of the guys, I know many of the guys that were in the unit of us, they are super, 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 super successful. And I believe they're super successful simply because they work hard, they got an incredible mindset, and they had great leadership. And whether you served under Andre Olivier or under Johan Lottrie or under Flip Schutte or under Jooste or any one of the guys that were in charge at their specific time, you served in a unit that was second to none. And that was a privilege. And the moment you understand privilege, and one of the things that you learn in serving in a unit like that is to take ownership. And excuse my French, own your shit. The day you start giving up on excuses is the day things change for you. So in a unit like that, you can't, make an excuse. You have to own your stuff. So if you didn't do well at something, it's because you didn't put everything in. There's no blaming someone else. And today in business, I apply that principle. I say to people, the number one thing that you need to do in business is just own your stuff. In good times and bad times, you have to take responsibility. And I believe the world would be a better place if we just take responsibility, first for ourselves, and then for the people around us, and then for the people in our business. You have to just take responsibility. So that's what I do. And I literally, I'm proud to share with people always when I work on stage, and I'm privileged. I've trained across the globe. I've worked with thousands of people. And when I'm on stage, and I'm proud to say that I've been part of this unit. And it's not about going into the detail of what we have done and what we haven't done, and did we have hijacks. And fortunately, we were never in such situations. But I mean, we worked in the townships under horrendous circumstances sometimes, and sometimes you run into difficulty, and it ain't nice. It's not about that. It's about the discipline that you learn. It's about the consistent persistency that you get. It's about no matter what happens out there, you take responsibility and you make a difference. And I truly believe that, today I speak across the globe about that, to say to people that each person, you, with all your experiences, are uniquely skilled to help other people. No one else. There's two stories every person has. First, your story. My story is unique to me. I grew up different. My experience, I've only worked 2 weeks in the charge office in the police force in a career of 8 years. So my experience is different to the next guy's experience. That makes my story different. There's 8 billion people on the planet. There's only one Kotzé, or there's only one Steyn Rossouw, 100 Olivier, and each person's experiences through their life uniquely equip them to make a difference for someone else. And I believe that's our purpose. We have to make a difference. And I'm doing this today to make a difference. To tell people that there's a bunch of people out there that have really, really worked hard to achieve what they've achieved. And sometimes I listen to people say, well, we were nothing special. Of course we were special. That's why it's called a special task force. You were special. You did stuff that other people weren't prepared to do. You went the extra mile that other people weren't prepared to do. You lasted another five minutes. And that equips you to make a difference in the world out there. In the world today where we see the force as a whole is in shambles. Only one reason: there's no leadership and there's no discipline. Really. Okay, I cannot imagine if you had someone like Andre Olivier or Johan Lottrie or Flip Schutte in charge of a unit and it would fall apart. No, because they would demand discipline. and respect and have it. There's not an option of whether you're going to be disciplined or not. You were just disciplined, period. And if you look at where we are today in South Africa per se, and you look at the police force, for instance, it is in shambles. Why? Well, there's no proper leadership, number one, and number two, there's no discipline. Period. We can call it whatever we like. If you look at the military today, and we used to have, I believe, one of the best armies in the world. And if you look at the special forces units in the military at in the 80s and prior and 90s, it was the best in the world. It's not there anymore. So it doesn't mean they don't train. It just simply means that they don't have the kind of leadership we were privileged to. It means they don't have the kind of discipline that we just accepted as the norm. You have to make your own bed to learn discipline. I don't think that is there today, and I think it's sad. It's actually a damn shame that it's not like that. But if I look at the guys after the force, for those who left the force, and even for those who stayed in the force, most of them are super successful simply because they keep on being disciplined. They didn't forget where they came from, and one should never forget where you come from. And then they're out there to make a difference, and that's why I think we partake in things like you're doing, and I have to congratulate you on what you're doing, Chris, and speaking to a lot of policemen and military guys and the legacy about that. And I train about legacy in my seminars, and I always say to people, inheritance is what you leave to people when you die. You're going to leave them a policy or a house or a car or furniture or clothing, a ring, whatever. Legacy is what you leave in people. And that's why, when I saw Andre on the legacy conversations, and I had a chat to him and said, I want to partake, because legacy, I believe, is what everyone is looking for. You want to create a legacy. What do you want to be known for? And legacy starts with, where did you start? Where did you come from? And how was your journey? And life is this journey that, sometimes we just in survival mode. And you move from survival to success when you decide who you want to be. What you want to be, what you want to do when you make the decision. And for most people, they never make that decision. They never decide. That's what I want to be. I mean, a day when Liep Liebenberg said to me, you must go to the task force, I took a decision that's what I want to be. I want to be there. Unless you make that decision, you'll never make that selection process. It's too tough. It's hard. It's incredibly strenuous. You won't make it if you haven't decided. And today I relate that into business. When I work with people, I relate that into business. And I go, well, for me to be an operator, I had to decide that I wanted to be an operator. I will do whatever it takes to be that. That decision had to come first. And then when I was right in the middle of it, I had to do what I had to do to be there. And at any given time, I had the opportunity to give up, and like everyone else. And the guys who made it at the end has just taken a decision not to give up. And I think today, when I'm on big stage, I say to people, the only skill I've ever learned is the skill of not giving up. Really. And that comes from being in a special task force in the railway police. And sometimes people, I don't know, when you speak to people, and I remember in the young days, you guys are like spoorstawe, and there was some type of connotation supposedly for being a railway policeman. And I go, but guys, the discipline in the railway police was incredible. It was just ridiculous sometimes. If you go to Esland Park, those college rooms have got wooden floors. You spend hours freaking going on your taxis over the floor to make sure it shines. Why? What reason could there possibly be other than to teach you discipline? You have to make your bed. So at no stage, and I'm prepared to say that if you had to compare the standards of going to the college for 6 months and going into basic training in the military, in any unit for that matter, I believe that the standard would be the same, because it was based on discipline, and you had guys that were really good. to do that, you know. So it was unnecessary to feel that because I'm in the railway police, I should sort of be shy to say that I'm a railway policeman, you know. And I think for most of us, like for me, I didn't even know the railway police existed until the day Kobus Venter phoned me and said, you know, there's no space in the SAP, but there is space for us in the railway police. And I go, goodness me, I don't even know where the railway police exist. But seeing that they do exist, let's join it, you know. And Kobus, you know, we went both to Komati. We were great mates. We both ended up playing for Southeastern Transvaal rugby. We both got honorary colors in the college for rugby. And we both went into the task force selection. Unfortunately, the Casper ran over his feet and severely injured him, so he couldn't finish up. But, you know, even although he didn't finish the selection process, I think he ended up in the railway police security branch and became a great policeman. And that's what I admired of the Spories, as they're oftenly known as, is the extreme great discipline. You would not find a railway policeman without his uniform being perfect, his shoes being shiny, his cap or his beret fitting properly. You know, you don't wear a beret like a freaking pancake. The guys would wear it properly. It's called pride. You're proud of who you are and where you fit in. And I think that to me is the story of it, is that without that, I don't believe I would have achieved what I have achieved. And I was fortunate, you know. I struggled for a period, but once I persisted and I came, you know, I went over that struggle and I started becoming successful. I became really, really successful. But you can't stop working. And it's something that I've learned in the task force. You know, there's no, I was the best shot in my, you know, in my, on my intake or training course. And if you don't continuously practice shooting, you can't stay on top, because tomorrow there'll be a guy that does it better than you. You know, I was for a considerable time the best shot, but there was always other guys that, you know, shoot as well, or, you know, sometimes shoot better than you. So you have to keep on practicing. You have to keep on doing. You have to keep on keeping the level high. And today, when I work with businesses, you know, my sole aim is to show people that they're capable of more than what they think they are, and to show them that if you do more than what is expected of you, you'll get paid more than you expect. If you just do because it's the right thing to do, when other people are not looking, you know, you do the right thing. It's called integrity. If you just have integrity. And I didn't learn integrity in business course. I learned integrity in the task force. I didn't learn this. Most of the stuff I do in business, I didn't learn in business school. I learned it in the task force, and I applied that to business life. And yes, I had to learn a lot, and I had to do a lot. And fortunate, you know, today we older people. I don't like to say we old men, but we older people, and we can look back and say, you know, this is how far we've come. And if it wasn't for that decision to join the railway police, I think my life would have turned out completely different. You know, completely different. But it was really, that is what carried me through. And I literally, you know, we each received, with the day you qualify as an operator, you get your wing, you receive a code of honor. And it's a simple document, but if you just live by those principles, life works out well, because that's how good they are. And literally to this day, you know, I just go, when I say I'll do something, I just do it, because that's what I've learned. You know, mean what you say and do what you say. If you're not going to do that, why do you say it? And if you just apply that, so for me personally, living by a code of honor gives you that type of security where you have integrity. People look up at you. They listen to what you say. You help people simply because you follow the basic rule of having discipline. Nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't take a super guy to do what I do, but I do what I do with great success. You know, so when I work with companies, they get the results, and that's why I am where I am. But I'm not that good because I'm that good. I'm that good because I had guys that trained me that well, that showed me what leadership was instead of telling me what leadership is. And that's what we do in business today. We tell people, what they should be like as leaders. We were privileged. We had leaders that showed us what leadership is. And they pushed us to our limits. I mean, I remember we did training on urban warfare and house clearing, and my fitness level wasn't up to standard at the time. So Hein Crocker still wrote me a little note on my certificate and says the member has to pay attention to his fitness. It's no bars hold. It's simple. You have to do what you have to do. And that's what I appreciated of that, is that it was always a no bars hold. You call a spade, and you have discipline. And if you don't have discipline, you bet your bottom dollar that someone will make sure that you get your discipline back. And I think for a lot of guys, that's most probably why they are so successful in business. I mean, if you look at most of the guys in the private sector are just successful. They do well, and they help a lot of other people. And that's what's good for me about having a legacy conversation with you, because for me it's legacy. It's something that I've done, that have taught me things that I could use to help a lot of other people. And that to me is what legacy is about, is what you leave in people, what you leave them behind. It's incredible to see when we do extreme format seminars and we let people walk over glass with their bare foot, or we let them break arrows with their throat on the sharp end here on the soft part of your throat. And we do extreme things like that, and they have done it. And you can see, the incredible achievement it gives them. There's nothing better in life to see someone achieve something that they thought is not possible. And to see that business go to a new level because all of a sudden their staff now believe that they are capable of more. There's just nothing, for me personally, there's just nothing better. When we stand at that fire drum and we put the hardekool in, or we put the sekelbos in, the guys ask, what wood are you using? I go, well, this is sekelbos. Sekelbos, because it makes nice warm coals. And when we're ready, we're going to walk barefoot over this. And it's about always accepting the challenge and having intention. And I think it's one of the things that I've learned in the special task force is to be intentional. And I remember many years ago, I was standing in a training facility at the Ziegler Foundation, and we did an exercise where there's 15 people in the room, none of them know each other from a bar or soap, and you have to write on a piece of paper, what you think about this person behind their back. An incredible thing I experienced at that point in time is that every single soul wrote on my paper that when I was speaking to them, I was very intentional. And I go, well, that's quite strange to me, because I am very intentional. I truly believe in whatever you're going to do, be intentional, have the right intention. I mean, when you started Legacy Conversations, it wouldn't be as great as it is if you didn't have the right intentions for what you want to do with this. If you look at Andre and what they do with the vehicles they built, they had to have the right intention for that. We want to walk over fire, you have to set the right intention. You have to be intentional in life. And I've learned that from being a railway policeman first, and then a special task force member secondly, is to be intentional. Decide what you want to do, man. Decide what actions you're going to take, and then take them. Often we hold back. And I look at me growing up as a child, and I never really performed that well. But I did perform that well when I decided that I want to be part of this elite group of people. I had to then perform well. And you have to keep on performing well. And that taught me in business, the moment you start performing, your business is going to go down. There's no magic wand. There's no magic charm. There's no, some people are luckier than other people. No, there's people with a better mindset and people with a poorer mindset. There's people that are committed and there's people that are not committed. And today I say to people, this is not about trying. Try is a lie. You either do it or you don't. There's no try and pick up your arm. And that's something I've learned from my leadership in the task force. Try your best. Do your best. Don't try and do 50 push-ups. You have to do 50 push-ups. Don't try and do sit-ups. You have to do the sit-ups. You have to do the pull-ups. and I think that's where the difference becomes between successful and non-successful people. Successful people have an incredible mindset where they decide what they're going to do and then do it. And they don't try. Unsuccessful people always try. They find an excuse for not being successful. And that's my short story, Chris. It was an incredible journey. It was a privilege to be a task force member. It was a privilege to be trained be the first group to be trained as anti-hijackers by the Israeli and El Al services. It was an incredible privilege to share with incredible people, really solid people, man. I can tell you, if you had to go into a combat situation where it's really tough and you get scared, you had Andre Olivier or one of those Flipskitter next to you, they'll come out of the Casper first. They're that kind of guys, they go first. And that shows a lot to the small guy, is that that kind of commitment. I think you either have it or you don't. But it also teaches you that that's what it takes. You have to be that committed. And in business, you go up. When I was the managing director, and I was that like 23 years, you have to be that committed. People think you just arrive one day and you sit there. No, it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of effort. When other people go to sleep, you still up and you work. And it's called a work ethic. And I've learned that work ethic. I've learned in the task force. I didn't learn it anywhere else. It's simple. I've always had an attitude. I remember in the college, when they chase you around, I go, well, I'm going to run as fast as I can until I'm tired. And when I'm tired, I'm tired. There's nothing I can do about that. But until then, I'm going to give it all I got. And that's an attitude to not be broken. I remember when we were in basic training in the task force, we had a fitness. Our fitness instructor was a guy by the name of Adolf Fabricius, and he was a very fit guy himself, and was heavy into karate. And we often joked about Adolf. He was so health conscious that he would bring a head of cabbage as his lunch, or a bunch of carrots or something like that for his lunch. But being a fitness instructor, he was very fit at the end of the day. And we were doing some exercise, and I've been, myself and trying to take a shortcut, and then, going to run again because Rossouw is not bringing his time. And eventually I said to him, Adolf, did you bring sandwiches today? Because it seems like we're going to be here a long time. And didn't take it kindly. We had to run some extra, and my buddies weren't too excited about it. But I call that an attitude. When you have an attitude that no matter what happens, you won't break me. And that's what the guys in the task force had. They had that kind of attitude, all of them. All of them. Some were fitter. I mean, in our group, I think LZ Engelbrecht was the fittest operator. So I was never the fittest guy. I was not the fastest guy. I was not the best operator at the end of the day. But I was an operator nonetheless, and I believe I was a good operator, and that I've learned so much from that experience in that short period of time. I mean, I think our course was the second last one in the task force that was done. There was one course after us, and it ended in '89 when the unit was disbanded, and then we went on to be anti-hijackers or sky marshals and saw the world. I mean, what a privilege to just see the world and travel, and sometimes travel with very influential people, and sitting in a seat as a youngster, having to make as if you're a business owner or a business person. It teaches you some stuff. It equips you uniquely for what's to happen in life, and it's a privilege for me today to say, and I always refer to my journey in the task force as my foundation. That's where I started, and that's where I've learned from. So today, when I listen to guys like Simon Sinek speak about the Navy SEALs and who makes it and who doesn't. I go, yeah, I can relate to that because I've been there, understanding who makes it and who doesn't. And yes, it isn't the guys that are super clever, and it isn't the guys that are super fit, and it isn't the guys that have got big arms. It is the guys that when they're really, really tired, they can bend down and pick up someone else. And they have that courage to do that. Those are the guys who make it. And those are the guys that have been the Railway Police Special Task Force. Incredible bunch of guys. Second to none. So we had great respect from the military side. I still believe today still we carry that. There was a lot of, I call it professional jealousy between the SAP task force and the Railway Police Task Force. And until this day, don't believe that they would ever, even in those days, had our type of capability. Call it professional jealousy if you like. I don't think there were another group of guys that could really do what we could do. We were a small group of very efficient guys. And that has allowed us to help people today in business. And that's why it's a privilege for me to speak to people worldwide, to train people, to help them have a better mindset, to help them how to drive their subconscious mind, how to do more than that you think is actually possible. Because sometimes life pushes at you. It comes at you hard. Sometimes I say, shit will happen. Your mindset will determine whether you handle the rubbish that comes your way. We don't control what happens out there, but we do control what happens in here. And if you learn that, if you apply that you control what happens in here, you can't control what happens out there. Life will come at you fast. You have to come back at life fast. That's how you make it. It's when Flipskitter runs you on your right ear. And he says, Ruff, do you want to go home? And you go, F off, I'm not going home yet. And he says, are you sure? Life comes at you fast. And he's relentless, I can tell you that. He's relentless. But that's what you learn from that. And many of our guys have been in different areas, have been super, super, super successful for that reason. And it's a privilege, Chris. It's a privilege to share with you. It's a privilege to share with your group. So yeah, that's probably what I've got to say. I don't know if you've got any other questions.
Well, we have a few things in common here, you and myself. We were basically at the same time in the police. You were a year before me. We were both sergeants, which is a good rank in the police. It's not as good as a warrant officer, but it's a good rank if you want to have fun on the streets. I've never been in a charge office. I've been there for a week or two, and then I realized I can't write because I never learned how to write at school. We were traveling so much. My father would be posted from one place to the other all the time. I think I was in 14 schools. And so when we got back to the Republic, they were already writing with Vaskryf. And I never knew how because no one taught me where I came from, so I taught myself. And thank God, about 16 years later or a few years later, the charge of a sergeant had one look at my attempt at writing the Veebeer of a Currents book. And I was posted out and never again allowed to ever touch anything of those. So that really worked out for me. But I want to ask you a few questions. Of course. Let me first make a statement. I know there's a feeling, probably on legacy as well, because I've experienced it in life, that there were those who went to the war, the soldiers, and there were those in the police. I have news for you people. And I write about it in one of my books. I think the first Mean Streets book, where I said to people, in the police, you're always a target. And whatever happens, whether it be a shootout, whether it be a bomb explosion, whether it be someone beating up his wife, you're duty bound to run towards the scene. You cannot run away from that scene. And if you're a good policeman, you will be running your ass off to get there because you want to sort it out. And in the police, in the flying squad, in places where I was, we had shooting incidents basically every second day. And you can relate that as a contact in the army, I suppose. The other difference is what you people were doing. And I want to sketch the situation for you who might not understand exactly what Steyn was talking about. When an aircraft or a bus or a building or something is hijacked, a train, there are hostages inside. And then a special forces unit has to go and rescue those hostages. But since they're being held hostage by terrorists, armed terrorists, trained terrorists, these mobbers are going to start shooting or blowing that place up the moment that the attack goes in, which is why it's not easily decided to attack. It's really a political thing. And once these guys actually go in, there's only going to be one outcome. Those terrorists are going to die or they're going to surrender, but the special forces team attacking is not going to lose. End of story. They might lose a few people, but at the end of the day, go and look at history, read the books which this James J. fellow wrote about it, and you will find out that once that team goes in, there's no turning back. That makes it totally man on man. It makes a very close combat right in a small place. It's very different from being in the army, and I'm not saying anything negative about the army whatsoever, because the police had the counterinsurgency units acting as light infantry, as mechanized infantry. We think of Kufut, mega successes. Why? Discipline, coming back to training, all those things. I cannot agree with you more about the SAPS. There's something wrong with them, which is rotten right at the top. And now with my long way of talking, I want to ask you something. In 1986, you weren't long in the railway police, but that's when the sad betrayal took place. I was on that parade, as most of you know by now. Did you feel in your heart that this is not right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, I think the animosity from the larger force. The SAP was a much larger force than the railway police, and there's a lot of animosity. And at the time, I don't believe we felt that we weren't good enough. We were more than good enough, and we had to fit into this larger force and to be at a spot where I think Hein Crocker said it, that they didn't really know what to do with us. And that's the truth of it, so this is not you go with the flow because there's nothing else you can do, but it's not something that we think now it's going to be really better at the end of the day, because it didn't go better. And putting the two forces together, I think today we know it was a gigantic mistake. Today we know that. I mean, just look at the general condition of security at airports. Look at, I came back from Mauritius last week, and we were 2 flights landing, and there's literally at passport control 1 person to service those, because the other people went on lunch. And I go, back in the day, that wouldn't happen. People wouldn't put their lunch before their work. They would go do lunch when it was time to do lunch, not after the work is done. So, back in the day, the railway police looked after the airport, and the airport was looked after well. They looked after the rail system in South Africa, and it was looked after well. People would feel safe to travel by train. You can't get on a train today. So I think today hindsight is obviously, always better than anything else. But today we know that it was a giant mistake. And at the time, I think as young policemen or operators in a special unit, it's almost as if you were just chucked aside. And I personally had a conversation with Colonel Louis Sauer at the time, and no one, I don't think anyone knows about this, because this is the first time I ever speak about it, where I went to his house, and one of my family members knew Louis well. They grew up together, and I said, well, I don't know where to go now. I need to figure out where to go. And that's before the opportunity came with the anti-hijacking unit. I went to see Louis at his house, and I said, yes, here we are. We were trained well. I mean, the Special Task Force of the Railway Police were trained exceptionally well. by exceptionally good people. And here we are. I have to go and stand at a gate at an airport, filling out a pocketbook. I don't believe that my training was done for me to do gate duty. And I'm not looking down at anyone, but you know, you operate in a unit like that, you're a highly skilled individual. And then you got a guy coming ask you why you haven't made notes in your pocketbook every 15 minutes standing at a gate. And I go, this is a challenge to me. And he said, well, what we can do is, you know, we can send you to this unit or that unit. And I think one of the options I was given was to join up with Eugene's team, or C1, or the Jagspannetjie as they were called at the time. And I think timing wasn't great, because a couple of days later the whole blew up came with that unit, and I didn't go. But that's where the anti-hijacking unit was there, and I proceeded there. But I mean, going into the police wasn't beneficial necessarily for us guys. There was no great feeling about now we're making a step up type of thing. Personally, I felt we're making a step down, because you're already working on a certain level, and you now have to there's a bit of professional jealousy, I suppose. Always think that you're better than the next guy. But I truly believe that our unit was trained a lot better than the SAP task force at the time. So to me personally, it wasn't a great move. And I think today we know it wasn't a great move. At the time, I believe that the top people made a decision that they thought was the right decision, and us normal oaks are not involved in those kind of discussions. And if we look back today, I think we had it kept on going as a railway police, I think our infrastructure would be better. I think our capabilities would be better, because we continuously upskilled our capabilities, and I think you would end up with better capable people. One guy is good at one thing, another guy is good at another thing. And just throwing it all together, you've taken the guy that was good at a certain thing and you've just wiped that out. And then you think the guy that will be able to just do that. No, their job was different prior to the amalgamation. The SAP had a different job than the railway police. And never said we can't work together. But I don't think it worked well as one force. In my humble opinion. This is my personal opinion.
It certainly didn't. I mean, I was in the SAP then. I mean, certainly there was feelings between the groups, and history will tell us. But the thing is, now I have to tell all of you that Eskom is going to get us in 3 minutes, which is why I have to ask you, do you have any message for your colleagues in the railway police? Perhaps someone listening here now.
Yeah, I wanna just simply say to them, be proud of who you are, where you come from. As you've had an incredible journey, and whether you were a spearder, or whether you were a cop on the beat, or whether you were in a task force, or whether you were in whatever unit you were in, at the end of the day, just be proud, and be proud of your history, and use what you've learned to help people. That's our purpose, I believe, in life, is to help other people. Some people have it tough out there, and some people struggle, and I truly believe that lots of guys in the force struggle, and it's most probably because the stresses that goes with being a policeman. The stresses is, I believe, for a lot of these guys that are exposed daily to rubbish. Very, very bad. Dig deep into your foundations. You've had, if you come from those years, you've had good training either way, and that you can rely on, and be proud of where you come from. Be proud of your history. There's no hiding one's history. You have to be proud. It's a good history, irrespective of what happened afterwards. It's a good history. And the railway police guys, most of them were solid guys, and they have a right to be proud.
Yeah, we got to know a few of you here on Legacy, and I agree. It's outstanding people, all of you. But where can we get hold of you? Let's say someone's listening here and they feel a need for your business services.
Yeah, of course, my email address is very simple. I've used my name and surname. It's steyn@steynrossouw.com. My cell phone number, I may, maybe give that to you, 084 440 3042. It's easy to get hold of me. You can just type Steyn Rossouw on the internet. You will find me there. Facebook, it's not difficult. It's not difficult to find me. I've got a reasonably a good profile. If you do go on my social media, I don't post pictures of my food and rubbish like that. So my social media is an uplifting thing. I'm very careful to always only post good stuff. Don't get involved into people's rubbish politics and things like that. My entire purpose is to literally get people in business more engaged, to show them that they're capable of more, to make them more successful, to create a version where each person that I work with become a better version of themselves. Because I think that's life's journey. Every day we have to strive to be a better version of ourselves. If I can't be better today than what I were yesterday, what am I doing? And then for every person, and that's my mission, that's my passion in life, is to take people to become a better version of themselves. This is not for me to change who Kotzé is at the end of the day, but if I can assist Koos to become a better version of Koos, that's what I specialize in. If I can show people, there's a better way of doing. There's mindset is everything, especially in business. But even for people that are not in business, mindset is everything. You can look at something and we come with a negative bias as human beings. We come with a negative bias. If you don't know how to deal with that negative bias, it's so easy to be negative, especially, we're having this conversation that Eskom might cut us short. You can look at that and go, it's load shedding again, or you can go, there's going to be load shedding. Let's work with that. And I think really that's something I've learned in the task force. Sometimes conditions aren't good. You have to work with it. Sometimes you're in a situation where the other side is more than you. You have to work with that. And in life, we sometimes have to work with what we have. And that's an important thing, is we always have two choices in life. I truly believe that. Life always gives us two choices. I hate it when people say, I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. You might not like the outcome of the choice you make, but there's always more than one choice. And if you choose right, things work better. If you choose the right habits, things work better. If you choose the right mindset, things work better. And I talk about these things as if it's easy. It's not necessarily easy. You have to work at it. But that's my function, is to show people that mindset can be different. You can control what you think. And if you do control what you think to a great extent, you do control your reality. Because the world that I work in, I believe that we can create our own reality. We can bend reality by how we work on the inside, how we work our mind. Our brain does two things. It dies or it grows. If you stimulate it, it grows. If you leave it alone, it dies. That's a scientific fact. And I've spent 30 years of my life studying the workings of the human mind and how that influences us, how it influences what we do, how it influences results, how it influences business, and how mindset changes business. I mean, I had a client recently who phoned me up and that did one-on-one coaching with me, and just saying, I can't believe it. I've done R1 million business this week. And I go, well done. What I've changed. She said, Ms. Steyn, it's become easy to me to do business like that. I said, so what have you changed? I said, all we've changed is your mindset. We haven't changed your business model. We haven't changed a thing. What we have changed is the way you think about things, and it's a continuous journey. And that's what excites me, Chris, is when some people are just naturally good at stuff, but for most of us, we have to have a great mindset to be good at something. And often in business, I mean, sometimes business is tough, man. I remember, I said to someone the other day, in February 2020, I was booked out until August of that year and paid for. Okay, entirely booked out. I had no open spaces. On 23 March 2020, I had to refund all those people their money because there was a lockdown and none of those events could take place. I mean, it's a bit of a shocker. if you think about it. At one moment in time, you had your entire year's income booked. And the very next moment in time, not too long after that, you're being unemployed. You had no income. And I remember sitting here and I go, okay, what am I going to do now? And I think for the first 30 days, to give you an idea of lockdown, I posted a video every single day on social media to share with people good books to read. How to keep your mind busy in a very challenging time, that's the only thing I could thought of at that moment in time, because my entire business just went dead standstill. And I said to my wife, I said, we're going to have to start thinking differently about business now, because I can't do live events, and live events is what I love. That's what I'm good at, is being on stage, being in the room with the people, and all of a sudden that's gone. So you have to find, we learned how to use Zoom, and you learn new skills. And I always plug that back, when life hits you that hard and you have to dig deep. For me, digging deep means going back to being in my selection process, what I had to endure to be one of the lucky guys. And in business, I'll refer back to that to say, this is something I have to endure now to be one of the lucky guys, to be one of the elite, to wear the wing on the chest. We had the song we always say, you don't know what I've been told, but task force wings are made of gold. I have to anchor back on that. And in that time, I wrote a book on how to work from home. I did some of my training courses online. I worked with a bunch of kids in America online on mindset. They had incredible results. But it was a choice, man. I could sit here and say, well, it's lockdown now, I can't do anything. My events are canceled, my income has gone away, it's freaking horrific, and I could blame the world. Or I could say, well, it has happened now, what now? How do I make a difference now? And that's mindset, man. That's what mindset is about. So, everything is not always going well. Life is not built like that. I always say to people, if you really want to understand life, just look at the one free thing you received in life, and that's your heart. If you look at your heart, a heartbeat has got an up and a down. And as long as it goes up and down, it's beating and you're alive. The moment it goes to a flat line, you're dead. You need those downs to have those ups. You need both the up and the down. You can't be on a flat line. In business, you can't sit on a flat line. You have to roll with the punches. Sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes stuff happens. I mean, we've had those riots in Durban a year or two ago. That was a challenging time for our country and for many businesses at the end of the day. You have to learn how to roll with the punches, and I believe that happens when you take control of your thought, of your mind, and you have a great mindset, and you have tools in your toolbox to drive that mindset. I truly believe that's what it takes. For the guys that really, some people during COVID made more money than they ever made before COVID. It's because their mindset was different. Of course, that's what's different. Some people really went into bankruptcy during COVID. Same type of businesses. One didn't make it and one made it better. It's mindset that does that, and that's why I'm so passionate about that. When I speak to people, it's really it comes from my heart. It's a passion thing, because I know from experience, being down in the dumps, being down and out, not having stuff, being on the virtually, so to speak, on the street. I know from experience that it's the day you decide to make it better, you make it better. And some people just find it easier to make it better. And it's an old saying, you train hard, you can fight hard. And I believe that hard training has equipped me to fight hard. In today's life, war is different. We're in a different world. It's not less of a war. If you think about it, business is a battlefield, man. It really is. And sometimes the enemy outranks you by far. You have to keep your mind together. And that's a message I have for people, So, don't look down on yourself. Be proud of where you come from, no matter where you come from. As a matter of fact, always be proud of your history and where you come from. And the only time you should look back is really to see how far you've come. Because no matter where you started out in life, and how good or bad it was, you've come a significant way to where you are today. No matter where you are, how good it's going for you or how bad it's going for you, or where you are in life, whether you're successful, you're struggling, at the end of the day, you still started at some point, and when you look back, you can see how far you've come. And be proud of who you are, man. Just be you. People always want to be someone else. And I don't understand the principle, but people always, I would like to be like that person or that person. I go, well, just be you. You're a unique human being and uniquely skilled with a unique story. There's two stories I wanted to say to you earlier that every person have. One is your own story. It's unique to you, 1 out of 8 billion. The second story is the story we tell ourselves every day. And I think that's the most important story, is the narrative we have in here. The story we tell ourselves every day. If you spend your time every day telling yourself how hard it is, how difficult it is, how you can't do business because of Eskom and load shedding and this and that and the other, the results you're going to pull is exactly that. If you spend your time to say, we are where we are, let's just be here and do the best that we can do, as opposed to the best we can do, not as opposed to what someone else can do. And I think that's an important thing. Yeah, be the best version of you. Don't try and be someone else. You can't be someone else. And don't look at the world as a negative place. We come with this negative bias. Our brain hasn't adapted from ancient times where we were on the lunch menu. The brain hasn't adapted yet. So when stuff scares us, it scares us exponentially more than what it should. And most of the time we don't achieve stuff because of fear. Fear of failure. And I always say that fear, great man once told me, fear is false evidence appearing real. And today when I look at it, I relate to that. I remember when, as a young recruit, I had to crawl over a building 11 stories high, and they took a rope from the one corner to the other corner where it made an L. So here over the open space, you had to crawl over. And you crawl over, you see 11 stories down. It's frightening. You get scared because it's a long way down. And if you come off that rope, most probably you won't make it, type of thing. But if you push through, you come to the other side to realize, that you can push through. You can make it. That fear wasn't real. You had a clip on that would help you if you did fall. But in that moment, it scares the living nonsense out of you. But that's life. Sometimes stuff scares us. You have to push through, man. Whatever is holding you back or whatever scares the living nonsense out of you, if you make a commitment and you push through, you'll see that most of the time fear is false evidence appearing real. Fear is not that, it doesn't mean, I would say courage is not what someone clever said. Courage is not a lack of fear. It's an understanding of fear and still pushing through. We get scared sometimes. And even in business, we get scared. You push through, you'll see it comes out better the other side.
I think that's well answered. Very well answered. I recall when the first lockdowns came, it was 2020. And 16 March, that's when it happened in Switzerland. It's my wife's birthday. And I recall just a few days before, they sort of said, no, it will never happen. And then suddenly it happened. And we sat there with the entire day. And we worked till 10 o'clock that night to get the school online, which we did. And then we started recording. We recorded the entire English language course of a Cullen method, where my wife has 2 schools in Switzerland on it. We recorded that on 700 different videos. And would you believe those videos are now online and they're changing lives? We don't really speak about lockdowns and things here or legacy because you can't afford to. Personally, that's my opinion. I totally blame that 2 secret Jesuits called Donald Trump and Fauci. And one day I think they're going to explain themselves. But right now we've come to the end of this episode. Eskom did get us from behind, which is fine. I understand you people just have to live around it, see what we can do. And I want to thank Steyn here. I want to thank Steyn for his positive view which he brought for us. And Also relating back to his service years. All of you, most of you was watching here did serve. And it's one of my dreams that you will actually remember those days and remember what you were and then apply that in your own life today. Even if we're a bit older, even if we're a bit fatter, even if we're perhaps more ill, you know what? At the end of the day, you were part of something which very few other people were. So thank you for listening here. And until we meet again, God bless.